the post-nuclear nightmare of Fallout. Something that seems a bit too plausible in my lifetime. It's home to many things I'd consider cool. Death claws, Freddy Fazbear, cool sci-fi weaponry, Pip-Boys, and of course, power armor. Big, hulking steel exoskeletons, capable of tanking bullets, various explosives, withstanding insane drops, and has a variety of unique features that makes it a must-have for any post-apocalyptic scavenger. And I didn't just mention Freddy Fazbear as a one-off joke. In Security Breach, you're able to climb inside of Freddy to gain protection, stealth, and to gain access to areas you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to without our big orange friend. So today, we're here to figure out just how good of a suit of power armor our pal Glamrock Freddy would make. We'll be looking over the abilities and stats of multiple suits of power armor, the various abilities and questionable durability of the big orange bear, and seeing how we could possibly tweak the blue-eyed Ursidae to fit in with his competitors. We'll also be primarily looking at the bulkier power armor from Fallout 4 and 76. We'll start this video off unaltered to see how basic Freddy with no modifications from us stacks up against the power armor in Fallout. Immediately, Freddy comes with some pretty heavy drawbacks, but also a few accidental benefits. Due to Freddy somehow being sentient, he can walk around and move on his own like he usually did in the Pizzaplex. He can make his own observations, interact with the world around you, and is surprisingly capable on his own. He's also pretty damn quick and can keep up with you no problem. He also has built-in scanners that can be used to build a guest profile, which may sound pretty useless, but in the Wasteland, having facial recognition may come in handy. He can detect if you're bleeding while you're inside of him, and straight up tell if you're injured. He's more akin to a companion that also doubles as a suit of armor, which actually sounds really damn cool. We'll be using a fully upgraded Glamrock Freddy. So he has Monty's claws. Freddy is also an absolute dumbass for not using these offensively. Granted, they're not the strongest things in the world, they're meant for playing the base, but they are also capable of easily slicing through chains. This won't really do much against any automaton enemies such as Assaultrons or any enemies in power armor, but this will wreak havoc on any mole rats, humans, or ghouls that try to stand in your way. He also has access to Chica's voice box. Chica's voice box can disable electric locks and scare off specifically Monty, Chica, and Roxy. Interestingly enough, it doesn't work on the staff bots, and I have no idea why. If anyone in the audience has a lore reason, then please tell me. We'll just assume it can scare off or potentially stun smarter robots like Assaultrons, Mr. Handys, and possibly synths, but Protectatrons and things like sentry bots are off the table. We also can't forget about arguably his most helpful modification, Roxanne's eyes. With these eyes, he can straight up see items through walls from insane distances. Unfortunately, he can't see enemies through walls, so remain vigilant. Freddy also has a fucking candle lighter underneath his finger for starting fires. It's probably for lighting candles on birthday cakes, but in the Wasteland, this would be an invaluable asset for cold nights or starting a fire for some food. Finally, he has an upgradable battery. Our boy Freddy is tethered to a power supply to remain operational, not too different from your standard power armor chassis. However, unlike the power armor chassis, his battery is garbage. According to this Reddit post, when fully upgraded, his battery tops out at around 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Before he gives you a permanent nap, which yes, if you stay inside of Freddy for too long and his battery dies, he kills you. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Something lore. A fusion core in Fallout 4 lasts approximately 20 minutes according to the Fallout wiki, or 10 hours of in-game time. Rounding Freddy's time down from 3:45 to 3:30 and dividing 20 by 3.5 would give you around 5 minutes and 42 seconds of time before you are mauled by the orange Yaogwai. This would translate to around 3 hours of in-game time roaming the waste before you'd have to press the eject button. This is extremely pathetic compared to the power armor chassis, but 3 hours is nothing to scoff at. He can also be pretty easily recharged by an outside power source if you're not gotten the Pizzaplex. I could imagine any of the plasma weapons or even a fusion core or fusion cell could probably be finagled into some sort of crackpot power supply. Freddy can also survive as just a head, which is interesting because this implies that Freddy's battery is most likely located in the head, giving a pretty clear reason as to why it's so pathetically small. However, Ruin's Headless Freddy and even Freddy's Headless jump scare would disagree with this, so now that we have a basic overview of Glamrock Freddy, let's discuss his drawbacks. The biggest one that Freddy has going for him is that you have to be an actual child or a crazy contortionist to actually get inside of him. His stomach hatch is intended for oversized birthday cakes and piñatas, which means he's a pretty decent pack mule, but also barely anyone watching this video can actually get inside of him. And once you are inside of him, you don't have much physical control over where he goes. He literally strips control away from you when he detects Gregory is hurt and rushes to the med bay against Gregory's wishes. You could potentially rest up while he takes you to safety, you just gotta hope that the battery doesn't give out on you. Finally, Freddy's shell probably isn't all too durable. It appears to be more of a plastic-like material since it cracks and shatters as opposed to denting like normal metal. And I am indeed aware Freddy has very heavy footsteps. It's most likely due to the super heavy endoskeleton within the shell, since even naked endos shake the screen when they walk in security breach. This is also a trait shared with power armor, which would imply Freddy would have access to the pain train ability. Freddy is also susceptible to fall damage, which is a huge negative. Not even the chassis have this weakness, and that's even without having any armor on it. Granted, it's a pretty long fall, but that's still a glaring weakness. That's the general rundown of Glamrock Freddy, and he'd honestly suck if you used him as a traditional suit of power armor. If we were to leave him unchanged, he'd be best used for reconnaissance and scouting. You could send him alone, or you could travel with him and scan various locations using Roxy's eyes to see if there's anything valuable within or behind any walls. The biggest things to look out for would be his terrible battery and his weak plastic exterior. And you know what? That's okay. In Fallout, there's plenty of power armor that fit a highly specific niche, such as the excavator power armor, which is pretty much only good for mining and carrying things. But despite Freddy's terrible disposition in the wasteland, there's the one bonus I intentionally left out. Glamrock Freddy is highly upgradable, and a crucial part of living life in the wasteland is adapting to what life throws at you next. So if we were to upgrade Freddy to be more suitable, what would we change? Instead of going the obvious route and turning Freddy into just another suit of power armor, I actually want to keep his independence. First off, we'll be changing the material Freddy's outer shell is made out of. Instead of the weak Pizzaplex plastic, we'll be swapping it out for steel. We'll also be reinforcing the torso and especially the stomach hatch doors to minimize the chance of the passengers being damaged while operating Freddy. Sadly, Freddy's gonna need a new battery to compensate for all the extra weight he's carrying. I'd swap out his Pizzaplex battery for what seems to be the standard power source for power armor, fusion cores. Lore-wise, these are supposed to last for hundreds of years, but Bethesda loves ruining things we care about, so we're stuck with the terrible batteries found in Fallout 4. To compensate for Freddy's heavier body, we'll also be reinforcing his endoskeleton, because I highly doubt he'd be able to move around much if we kept his basic Pizzaplex endo. This would also lead to Freddy becoming a bit bulkier since we'd have to make room for his new stomach hatch and his bigger endoskeleton. We'll also be upgrading Freddy's claws to be made of titanium, which would be a pain in the ass to repair, but would do wonders in combat and exploration, as he'd be able to claw through things stronger than chains and fight off close enemies more effectively. I also think making Freddy's teeth titanium would be a good idea as well. He's a literal bear, so being able to bite stuff would be pretty cool. However, the trade-off for this is that any stealth benefits you'd have using Freddy over normal power armor are basically gone. However, thanks to Freddy being so upgradable, he'd probably synergize with a lot of the power armor upgrades we already have in game. And also, I doubt you want to sit here and listen to me slowly list every upgrade I think Freddy is compatible with, so I'll just show them on screen now. All of these changes would make Freddy a pretty decent suit of armor. Not a metal tank like the T60, T45, or XO1 power armor, but a niche scouting suit of power armor with a surprising amount of firepower and lethality. He also doubles as a companion who could either shield you from bullets or back you up by firing acquiring his own. Not a bad trade-off. And now that I'm done with that, I can finally eat some mole rat on a stick and drink some Nuka-Cola. Subscribe, follow, join, get out of my sight.